Hi, I'm SFPE's Technical Director, Chris Jelenewicz, and welcome to my presentation on SFPE's technical initiatives that are advancing the profession of fire protection engineering. Specifically, I'm going to talk about SFPE's research roadmap, which was developed in 2017 as a way of promoting research that is needed in the fire protection engineering profession. Second, I'm going to talk about the SFPE Foundation and specifically how the SFPE Foundation is taking this research roadmap and using it to determine future research projects that are funded by the foundation. I also talk about SFPE standards and guidelines, and then finally discuss the 6th edition of the SFPE Handbook, which we plan on publishing in the year 2020. So let's get rolling here. We'll first talk about the SFPE Research Roadmap. Its purpose is to identify the research needs for the fire safety engineering profession or fire protection engineering profession. It can be found at the SFPE website on the link shown on this slide, or you could go to SFPE.org, www.sfpe.org, and look under technical areas and then click on research, and you will find your way to the SFPE Research Roadmap. This was developed about 3 or so years ago, and SFPE is actually in the process of updating this in the year 2020. So hopefully you'll see a revised roadmap by the end of the year. When we started to develop this roadmap, we put together a few goals, or basically what we call the vision of this roadmap. And first, we wanted this roadmap to define the future SFPE technical initiatives. So as far as developing new content moving forward, we wanted to use this roadmap as a guidance document. We also, in the development of this document, wanted to ensure transparency. So we kept our members updated through presentations at seminars, including the SFPE conferences, but we also involved our membership in a survey to help develop this roadmap. We wanted to ensure that it was research that is needed by fire protection engineers. We wanted to make sure it's a living document. We didn't want this document to end up on a shelf somewhere and never be used. And that's why we're updating it this year. We wanted to have a long-term focus on advancing fire protection engineering. We wanted it to be a means of coordinating future research initiatives through our own foundation. We wanted this to form the basis of forming partnerships with other research type, fire safety type organizations. And we wanted this roadmap to act as a bridge between research and practice, which I believe is the most important part of this program, is that we make that link to research that is needed by people who are practicing in our profession. And finally, we wanted this to be to form the themes for future SFPE conferences and also webinars. As you can see on the slide, here's basically what the research roadmap looks like. Even though you could find the entire report on the SFPE website, I think this one figure or infographic really explains things. As you can see in the vertical axis, there are 9 different research areas that were identified on the research roadmap. They include human behavior, building fires, resilience sustainability, fire service, fire dynamics, fire safety systems, forensics investigations, wildland urban interface fires, and in non-building fires. On the horizontal axis, you will see a list of tools, applications, and methods, which are divided into 4 areas. And that includes data, that's needed in a specific area, innovation or innovative materials that are related to that research area, design tools that are needed for fire protection engineers, and then finally, research related to risk or probabilistic approaches for each one of the 9 areas shown. As you can see, here's 2 of the areas outlined from the main organizational chart that I showed you before, that is human behavior and the building fires. For each of the 4 areas, you will see that there's a list of possible research areas that are needed. So when you look at human behavior under data, you will see research related to demographics. And there we're talking about things like cultural differences or the fact that our population is getting larger and things like that we need data for. As you can see, that item was identified in red on this chart here. The items identified in red are indicated to be the priorities for each of the groups. And then also in building fires, you will see the standardization of design fires to be the priority. So even though design fires is the priority, there's other areas that we believe that are important. For example, research related to probabilistic approaches related to high-rise building design, or data that is needed for structural loading for a structural fire protection engineering analysis. If you go to our report that identified in a previous slide, you can find all these different charts for each of the 9 different areas. But because I don't have a lot of time, I won't talk about every one. Moving into the SFPE Foundation, SFPE does have a foundation where its mission is to advance the science and practice of fire protection engineering by advocating and supporting engineering research, technology transfer, and education. The foundation has recently published a new strategic plan that you can find in the link that's shown on the slide. And one of those activities that's part of this strategic plan is linking the research roadmap to future funded foundation activities. And I'll talk about that on the next slide. And then finally, the foundation gives out awards annually. That includes the Gila Prus Scholarship, the Arthur Guise Medal, the Student Scholar Award, and the Jack Bono Award, which is given to the best paper in fire technology that's related to fire protection engineering. As I indicated, the SFPE Foundation is trying to link that roadmap to future research initiatives. And here are 3 examples of how the foundation has done that. The first 2 are projects related to human behavior, one on data and movement speeds, and the second relates to estimating occupant loads in retail buildings. Both those projects are completed and can be found on the SFPE Foundation website. And finally, the foundation recently awarded a new research project related to the development of fire protection engineering practitioner tools. And you can find more about that also on the SFPE Foundation website. And that project has recently started, and we hope to see that completed in the year 2021, I believe. Now, moving from the important work that our foundation does and our research roadmap, I'm going to talk a little bit about SFPE's technical documents, or technical content that forms the body of knowledge for our profession. SFPE currently develops either guides or standards that are part of SFPE's technical initiatives. The development of these guides and standards are under the direction of our subcommittee for standards oversight. So this committee defines new projects, making sure that we have committees that are well balanced and that the process that is used to develop guides and standards follows SFPE procedures. SFPE is also an ANSI standards developer, so any new SFPE standards will be ANSI type standards. In 2018, SFPE published the 2018 version of its Guide to Human Behavior of Fire. This guide can be found at the Springer website at www.springer.com. And if you are an SFPE member, you do get a discount if you're interested in purchasing this guide. You could obtain this guide in a digital format or in a hard copy version, or in both versions if you'd like. Specifically, this new Guide to Human Behavior and Fire has information on toxicity analysis methods. It also has information related to occupant behavior scenarios that are part of a performance-based design. The guide provides a really nice chart on how you can organize your thoughts when developing the human behavior aspect to a scenario. There's also information on movement models versus behavior models and a way to determine, what model should you use for a given application. In addition to model selection, there's information on how to ensure that your models are validated and verified properly. The new guide also has information about estimating uncertainties and how to use or hopefully limit the use of safety factors in human behavior analysis. And then finally, some of the new information in the SFPE Guide to Human Behavior includes enhancing human response to emergency notification and messages. So there's an entirely new section on notification and messages, and it really helps the engineer when he's designing a voice alarm system, determining what the correct messages are for the population that we are trying to protect. And then also, how do you take these messages and include them in your emergency response plan, and how do you take your other human behavior design aspects and put them in an emergency plan. This year, in 2020, SFPE published its revised SFPE review guidelines. This is a free document, and you can access it at our website, once again, www.sfpe.org. It's available in a digital format, and the main reason we developed this guideline is not only to assist fire protection engineers who are interested in doing a peer review, but it is also for the AHJ and the Code Enforcement Authority as a way of promoting peer review and assisting the AHJ in ensuring that the proper procedures are followed if there's a need for a peer review in their jurisdiction. It also has a new listing of definitions. It also talks a lot about qualifications for fire protection engineers that matches up with the SFPE competency document. There's also new content in there to ensure that the document is in line with the SFPE Code of Ethics, which is a very important part of peer review. In addition, SFPE is currently developing a revised guide for tall buildings, or specifically very tall buildings. Currently, the first draft of this document is available for public comment. The public comment period ends on the 25th of September. So if you are interested in making comments, and I hope you do, because we are very much interested in ensuring a transparent document and ensuring that we get a lot of comments from the broader fire protection engineering community, you can find that at www.sfpe.org. And there's information about how to make comments. The form to submit comments is all on the SFPE website. And we're very excited about the next version of the Tall Building Guide, as it's going to have a lot of good new information, including great new information on how to perform a structural fire protection engineering analysis. There's a lot new information on facades and the building envelope. Of course, a lot has happened since the original guide was developed. A lot new information on conducting evacuation and ensuring that we're providing the correct notification to the occupants of the building. And then finally, there's new sections on energy storage and a new section on special structures, which includes things like amusement park rides on the top of tall buildings. It could be observation decks or even heliports, which we see are being used a lot more on tall buildings. We are also in the process of updating our guide to fire risk assessment. A first draft of this has been completed and is being reviewed by our Standards Oversight Committee. And if approved, it is estimated that this risk guide will go out to public comment somewhere towards the end of this month or the end of September 2020. So once again, if risk assessment is something that is interesting to you, we hope that you provide us with public comments, and I urge you to check back on our website at the end of the month to find out when the public comment date started. But this new risk guide, it includes a new flow chart, basically redefining the different steps in a risk assessment analysis. There's also specific sections related to quantitative versus qualitative analysis, so that you could see the different ways of approaching a risk assessment based on whether you're looking at a qualitative or quantitative or even quasi-quantitative, qualitative type analysis. And then finally, the new version of the document will include more examples for the practicing fire protection engineers to show how to put these steps in our model to real life type scenarios. We're also working on a lot of other projects related to guides and standards. We're currently writing a new standard, our performance-based design. This is another very exciting project. We got fire protection engineers from all over the world, and specifically areas where performance-based design is used a lot, like New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Sweden. So we have a very great diverse group that's working on that standard. We're also have a committee that's looking at developing a new standard on design fire scenarios, which is part of a performance-based design. And then we also have a different committee looking at fire exposures to structures, which is revising SFPE's first standard on the same topic. And then we have a new project that we're currently recruiting for new committee members. So if you're interested, please contact me. My contact information will be at the end of this presentation. But this new project's going to be related to developing a guide on the assessments of existing building fire safety. So if you're interested in participating in that test group that's developing this new guide, once again, please contact me or go to sfpe.org for more information. And finally, I'm going to talk about the SFPE Handbook of Fire Protection Engineering. Without a doubt, our most important document. A lot of people consider this to be the body of knowledge for the fire protection engineering. We're currently working on the 6th edition of the handbook, and we hope that it will be published in the year 2022. And there's a lot of new exciting things going on with the next edition of the handbook. This includes that there'll be new sections on fire testing and a new section on wildland urban interface fires. So even though previous editions had this type of information, we're pulling them into separate sections. And speaking of sections, the handbook of the next edition, the 6th edition, is going to go back to having a separate section for the important topics, including fire dynamics and structural fire analysis and human behavior in fire. So that's going to be another exciting change. We're also going to have a user guide for people who are going to use this document as part of a fire protection engineering design, and it's also going to have an introduction to fire protection engineering. There's also going to be new chapters related to passive fire protection, fire investigations, flame extinction by active fire suppression systems, lithium-ion batteries and energy storage, refrigerants, and oxygen reduction systems. And there are also going to be significant changes to the data that's been provided in the appendices. In the appendices, there's a small group of people specifically from NIST that are assisting us in making sure that the data in the appendices is the most updated information. And then we're also have an effort to ensure common technology throughout the document. So anyway, I will keep you posted either through SFP newsletters or other presentations like this on how we proceed in publishing this document, or the SFPE Handbook, in 2020. And finally, a brief word about SFPE's Fire Technology Journal. A lot of people don't, or maybe not aware, that fire technology is both an SFPE and an NFPA document. So both SFPE and NFPA are proud of this publication, but if you're interested in submitting abstracts to fire technology, we're always looking for interesting content that promotes the practice of fire protection engineering. And with that being said, I talked to you about all the interesting things. I think not all the interesting technical things we're doing at SFPE. We're doing a lot more in the areas of conferences and education and competency and things like that. So I encourage you once again, I know I said it 100 times, but go to our website, www.sfpe.org. And finally, if you want to get involved with any of our committees that are developing some of this technical content, contact me at chris@sfpe.org. Or if you have any questions about anything we discussed today, if you think about them after our question and answer period, feel free to send me an email. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate your attention. Have a nice day.
There we go. Yeah, you get the joy of being the first Q&A of the day, first talk of the morning. So yeah, we're seeing the number going up here. So welcome everybody over from the stage. If you have any questions for Chris, please put those in session chat and be happy to answer. Yeah, Chris, we have, just while we're waiting for questions, we have some people, John Gales has given a talk showing some of the SFPE Research Foundation work that they were doing. So it's been nice to see. Yes. Question here, Jason Barden says, SFPE is a great organization. A lot of the research goes into the fire engineering guides in the UK, the BS 7974 framework. Is there a plan to expand on the membership within the UK, Europe, and offer civil engineering membership within the UK? there's a lack of performance-based fire engineering membership in the UK.
Yeah, well, that's a great, interesting question, because expansion into Europe is one thing that SFPE is really focusing on. If you don't know, we do have a chapter right now in the UK that's a fairly new SFPE chapter. So I would ask you to, get involved with them. And at the same time, you might have seen on one of my slides that we are writing a performance-based standard now. And one thing we're focusing on when we're developing this performance-based standard is to get participation from the global community. So we do have people from the UK on this committee. Actually, I think we have 9 members on the committee from all over Europe and all over the world. We have a great membership. So we're taking what people are learning from all different parts of the world in performance-based design to develop this standard so that it can be something that's used throughout the world and in the UK too.
Excellent. Thanks for that question, Jason.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah, anyway. Sorry, I cut you off because I wanted to get to the question. I didn't know. Sometimes they just come flooding in.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, so John and Julia and Georgette both kind of talked in different ways around that work, that body of work with the anthropomorphic data, the work for the foundation that they had done. So some applied.
Yeah, another thing we're doing, and I can't remember if I even mentioned it in my presentation, but we are working on a new project that's looking at computer models that's coming out, that's being worked on now. So hopefully in the next year or so, we'll see a nice report that's going to find us some information to move forward with that.
Yeah, really kind of a state of the world in computer modeling technologies, gaps, kind of a gaps analysis, any needs that are not being met. It's a great project. Chris, Kristen just mentioned if you want to collaborate with IFE, please contact her at ksa5@gcuac.uk.
Yeah.
And so she's on the board of directors there.
Oh, great, because we are always interested in collaborating. I know we have with the IFE in the past. A lot of times I might not be the one involved, but I will pass that on to our people for sure.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get the contact information there in chat. So you can also, if you want, you can go into the people tab up there, kind of where we were chatting earlier, and you can search for Kristen's name if you want to have a direct follow-up. Or Kristen can do the same with Chris. You guys can find each other. Any other questions? Just give people a minute. We've got about 50 people here. So don't be shy. Okay. Well, we'll let that be the last question, Chris. So thank you very much for your talk and your connection and help co-sponsorship. We appreciate our relationship and getting this event, distributed throughout the world and raising awareness.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for inviting me too. And I really like to congratulate you and the rest of your team for putting together a great virtual conference, because it's very hard. We understand it's something you probably had to do on the fly. You probably didn't have a lot of time, and to put this so professionally together to do a great job, you guys should really be congratulated.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's great. And hopefully you get a chance to spend some time in some of the other talks and see what's going on today. We have lightning talks today, which are kind of interesting. There's little 5-minute sessions of just a quick idea that anybody has to talk about. So that'll be happening later today too, which should be fun. But with that, thanks so much. And we're going to transition away. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.